Hello, hello. Welcome to What's Working Now. Today we have an incredible guest, Scott Walker. This is a guy who started a business as a sophomore in college, and before he graduated had already grown it to 3 million in revenue. And here's the fascinating thing. What he was doing in that day, aka waterproofing iPod shuffles. I know, isn't that so cool? He's not doing that anymore. And yet all of his competitors have died off, and this man has mastered the art of pivoting. In fact, he would tell you, pivot or die. Scott Walker, welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
Yeah. Scott, I'm super excited about your story because business is it. We have to ever be evolving, innovating, and it's a delicate process. And yet, if we're not doing those things, to your point, we will start to die off. Markets and the people's interests and needs are constantly shifting and changing, especially in the electronics zone. Like I can only imagine how much they shift and change in the electronics. So let's start by answering this question. How and when did you know the first time that you needed to pivot your business? What was the proof and evidence that said, hey, Scott, it's time to make a change?
It's a great question. I always knew that we had to pivot from when we first started. So we had this aftermarket process that waterproofed iPod shuffles.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, the electronics industry changes all the time. So
Yeah.
we knew that someday Apple would either discontinue the iPod shuffle or maybe worse, make a waterproof iPod shuffle of their own. Or it wasn't going to last forever. And so
Okay.
we felt very, I don't know, blessed that it lasted as long as it did. But from the time that we realized like, oh, this is probably going to be our career, right? I mean, my career. My dad and I started Underwater Audio together. We were 50-50 partners for 10 years, and I bought his half of the company a year ago. And so we knew from the beginning that we needed to think about what was next. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So from the get-go, I love this. And this is a trend I see very often with CEOs is they're very future oriented, and they're already looking into the future. And how did you say it? You said you're always looking at least 2 years down the road. And for reference for everybody, the product and company is called Underwater Audio. I guess the product is called the Delphin, and it's this. The waterproofing iPods has evolved into creating your own product. And I think what is so brilliant about your company and your ability to evolve is you have had more focus and attention and concern about the end consumer and the problems that they need solved. And one product is potentially a waterproofed iPod, or maybe it's something else, right? And so you have very beautifully evolved. And one of the things that you have done in this process of evolution is you put together a Kickstarter campaign. Now, I know there's a lot of people listening who are very curious about Kickstarter, how you utilized it, why it was successful, which you were funded beyond what you were asking for, which is fantastic. So tell us that process, and it includes a great video, by the way. Everyone needs to go watch the video, underwateraudio.com. It's a great video. And so tell us this process of putting together a Kickstarter campaign. What were the essential ingredients to getting funded? And then tell us about the video, because it's so fun.
Okay, sure. So we started making the Delphin about a year before we launched the Kickstarter. And we knew at the time that many Kickstarters go over on, what they promise and then what they deliver. So we decided we weren't going to be like that. We started a year before working on making the product so that when we launched, we felt fairly confident we could meet our deadlines of when we were going to deliver things by.
Okay. Integrity right there. Pay attention, everybody. That was integrity. Keep going. So good.
So, so one thing that uh, I always tell people about Kickstarter is I I think that many people believe that Kickstarter is a platform that you create an amazing video and amazing content on your page, and then Kickstarter will bring that, if it's good enough, that Kickstarter
Mm,
will show that to an audience.
yeah.
And that's absolutely not true. So Kickstarter is a great platform that has trust baked into it, where people are very familiar with the concept of
Uh-huh.
pre-ordering something and supporting an entrepreneurial venture. But very few projects get that kind of attention. And in my
Yeah.
opinion, it it is random. You know, they
Mm,
don't necessarily choose the people who are converting the best, or the people or the companies projects that are uh, the most popular even. Uh, they
yeah.
they just pick ones that their team liked, and uh, there's not much you can do to influence that. So there are thousands of products probably launched on Kickstarter every day,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
you have to be the one that drives the traffic. So uh,
Yes, that is the
yeah,
key right there. You
yeah,
have to be the one who drives the traffic. And in a
yeah.
way,
So
you're using the Kickstarter campaign almost like this marketing campaign, and it happens to be hosted on Kickstarter.
absolutely, and I
Yeah.
recommend Kickstarter if you want to do a pre-order campaign,
Mhm.
because it has that inherent, like, trust that, and that's what online sales is primarily about. It To be successful, you have to get the customer to trust you enough to give you their credit card information.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and people feel very uh, good about giving Kickstarter their kicks their credit card information. So
Yeah.
uh, you wanted me to talk about the video, so I'll talk.
Well, well, I want to make sure people capture this because it's a really incredible marketing campaign. It's a good vehicle and a tool. You can't just make a video and a pretty prototype and expect Kickstarter to do the work for you of driving the traffic. And I think that was such an important message that everybody needs to hear. You also need to take ownership and responsibility for driving a lot of the traffic. Can you share just like one or two things that you and your team did to drive the traffic? Because it's one
Absolutely.
thing to make a great video, but you have to get people on the page to watch the video. So what were things that you guys were doing outside of the actual Kickstarter campaign to drive the traffic?
Absolutely. So we did a lot of advertising on Facebook
Okay.
and um, Google to a small degree. We had
Okay.
an email list of our prior customers that we
Nice.
emailed and sent to the campaign. We actually did a
Mhm.
direct mail campaign to our past customers. I don't know how
Cool.
successful it was, uh, but we tried. We threw the whole kitchen sink at it because
Hmm.
we knew that that was the future, and that we needed to be the ones to drive drive that awareness
Yeah.
of this.
That that was the future of your business. Like the existing business that you had would eventually start dying off. You could see this years in advance and you were like, okay, we need a new product. And then we need a way to market and share that product and create excitement and demand for that product before we dump a bunch of cash into that product. Which, by the way, if you were in physical products, I see so many people make this mistake. They like go develop this product, they spend tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars investing in actual inventory, ship it to a warehouse, and then they say, okay, Now, how do we get people to buy it? I'm like, hold on, you did this so backwards. You have to create the demand first, create the excitement, create the hype, and let people know about it. Like maybe even let them purchase it ahead of time, which is part of the whole model of Kickstarter. And then we put the money down on the factories, we hit go, and then ship the product. Like that's the order of things. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my favorite thing about Kickstarter, is a tool to determine the demand for your product.
Mm,
Because and if it doesn't meet your goal, if it isn't as popular as you thought it would be, I think it takes a lot of humility, but you've got to be willing to pull the plug, say like, oh, I guess this isn't what people wanted, and
right. I mean,
that's hard to do.
that's the other interesting element of Kickstarter is it's like a literal, people are tracking your quote success, and everybody can watch. So it's really intimidating because you're putting yourself, your company, your brand, your products out there for everybody to witness and see whether or not you have what it takes.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of, yeah. I could wax eloquent on the philosophy of Kickstarter, but I won't go too deep into that. I wanted to say that we didn't deliver on time. So we were very
Mm,
confident going in that everything was going to work, but the, I don't want to get too much into the details, but
sure.
the PCB at the time, the actual thing that made the product work,
Okay.
was all done
Mhm.
when we did the Kickstarter.
Okay.
So
Uh-huh.
we were fairly confident at that point, but the plastic and how we were waterproofing it um, didn't didn't work. And so we went
Wow.
to, we probably spent like 3 months in China over 6 different
Yeah.
trips, going back and forth and iterating on the mold, and we delivered a year late, and it was painful to
Mm,
respond to customers and give them updates,
mhm.
um, and so my hard-earned experience from that was um, to not buy the inventory, to Katie's point, but to
Mhm.
be very confident. Uh, I guess we were very confident too, so that's not enough. I would have a first article in hand before you do the
Okay.
Kickstarter campaign. I would have, you know, this is good enough to sell. I don't have
Mhm.
3,000 of them or however many I need to build, but
Right.
I would have the product working so that you're not
Mhm.
years down the line still promising people, oh yeah, this is it, guys.
It's almost
Next
there.
month we're gonna have it. Because
Yeah.
after you've said that a few times, yeah, you know, you feel
They don't
like a
trust you
fraud.
anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well,
so
and also to your credit, like you could have rushed it and maybe even delivered on time with bad product that didn't deliver on
oh
your promises. And this,
yeah,
that goes
absolutely we
back to
could
the
have.
integrity piece. Like that wasn't even an option for you. And unfortunately, there are companies that do that all day long on Amazon.com. And
Mm.
like when you're building a brand and a name and a reputation, you cannot take those chances. Like that's just not even an option.
Yeah, there's a
And
lot of
so,
people that use Kickstarter for like as a one-time, money grab,
uh-huh.
where
Yeah.
they launch a product that doesn't really deliver on their promises, and they made a bunch of money on the
Yeah.
Kickstarter, but
Right.
no one buys it after that. So
And then they just disappear and listen.
yeah,
That does things to your souls. It's
some of the
not
most
good.
successful Kickstarter campaigns um, ever. I don't want to like drag people through the
Sure.
mud here, but if you look at the top 10, a lot of
Uh-huh.
them didn't really deliver on their promises. Some of them
Yeah.
didn't even deliver all the product, even though it didn't deliver on the promises to
Well,
their
hey,
backers. So
as a woman who's a product designer and for 10 plus years was manufacturing my own goods and shipping them all over the world, it's not easy
oh
to
no.
produce a high quality product, even if you have a really good prototype and sample that you're taking to a factory yourself and you're walking through. It is not easy. It is to deliver on the high standard that you want and need to maintain your brand and your name. It takes a lot of experience and effort and understanding to be able to do that. And most people just are not capable of that. They don't have the same standards and even creativity and understanding to be able to understand how to make it happen. Yeah. So I wanted to point out your integrity there. And the other integrity piece is you continued to communicate to them. And yes, you had your tail tucked between your legs and it was uncomfortable to say it's going to be another 6 months or whatever it was, but you didn't disappear on them. You continued to communicate, you continued to work on that product. And I think that's a really important lesson for everybody who's listening. Absolutely. And one of the elements that really helped you convert people is this really fun, clever video that I'm sure people listening are familiar with the Harmon Brothers. I don't even know if you worked with them, but it was kind of Harmon Brothers style video that was fun and kind of cheeky, tongue in cheek.
Yeah, it was definitely
And
inspired by their, success for sure. But
yeah, what
yeah,
was
it's
your
this.
formula for that?
I don't know if formula is the right word. My team and I, we found this company that produced videos,
Mhm.
but I wrote most of the script myself.
I love it, by
So,
the way. It's so clever.
yeah, it's a merman that is like kind of looks like King Triton from The Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
Who the idea is this? He's um, got he's like a divorced kind of a bro that
Yeah.
um uh so kind of a different take on King Triton, and gotten he's gotten fat from the depression post divorce, and the Delphin uh allows him to listen to Spotify while he swims, and has helped him. I forget what the words are. I wish I could remember. But basically, turn his flabby bod into back
Yeah.
into his King Triton shape.
I think one of the phrases was like, bring the core back to the albacore. You like
Right.
did a really
Yeah.
good job of bringing a lot of ocean and sea words and phrases and using them to share your message, which I thought was so clever. Yeah. So to produce a video like that is a huge investment of time, energy, and money. So how did you, and can potentially be a total distraction in a way from your current business and business models. So how did you navigate this concept, which, maybe certain business partners or team members, or I don't know if that was ever sort of an issue, but did you have to sell the idea to anybody? Because on paper, that can look so silly, right?
Hmm.
But once you finally see the finished product, it's like, oh, this is brilliant. This is so good. So was there any element of that, of having to kind of inspire and share the vision with the team in a way, or was everybody always on board? And what were kind of the key ways in which you were able to even fund it and make it happen? Because it all has to happen before the money comes in from the Kickstarter.
Well, so we had the benefit of all that sweet, sweet waterproof iPod money. So we had, we had something to build off of, and that's not something
Yeah,
most Kickstarters have.
that's true.
I had to convince my dad, who's my business partner.
Yeah.
So my dad and I disagreed on pretty much everything in the 10 years of business that we, yeah. So my dad is an engineer and
Hmm.
has a very like practical outlook
Okay.
and very conservative financially. So
Okay.
the the whole process, I had to convince him to do the Delphin in the first place, and um, had to convince him, to spend money on this video, um,
Yeah.
and it, uh, it's all the things that we said before, where he and I both knew that there was no future in the iPod Shuffle, and in fact, it was discontinued 6 months after we did the Kickstarter campaign,
Wow.
maybe less, like 4 months after.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was uh, he and I both knew that we needed something that
Hmm.
that would be even better than an iPod Shuffle and
Hmm.
take people to you know take our customers to the streaming music era.
Yeah.
That by 2017 or whatever, when the iPod Shuffle was discontinued,
Okay.
uh, buying MP3 files was something your parents did. It's like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like 8 tracks for me, right? So,
Sure.
um,
Yeah.
so he and I both knew it needed to be done, and I convinced him that this was the path forward, and we needed to invest a lot of money and time into making it
Okay.
successful.
I mean, what's kind of unique about your situation, because you were waterproofing iPod shuffles, the day that they discontinue those, you literally, your business drops off a cliff. And it's not like slowly it dies. It's like, no, and done. Right. And
Well,
so in a way, you had to kind of take drastic action because of that potential future.
so actually, this is a good, lesson for the group. We had been aggressively saving money for the 5 years prior to that,
Okay.
because we knew that one of the very likely scenarios was that they would discontinue the iPod Shuffle altogether, especially
Okay.
when they started discontinuing like the iPod Classic and other things. We kind of,
Mhm.
saw it coming.
Yeah.
So when they discontinued the iPod Shuffle, we had a lot of money in the bank, and we also had a line of credit uh, through our bank,
Mhm.
which is
Uh-huh.
not something you can do like in a day. It's something that
Right.
takes like months of talking to the bankers and applying for it and having something to use as collateral, et cetera, et cetera. And
Mhm.
so we had like, I think $500,000 line of credit, and we had all this cash sitting in the bank, and we bought
Uh-huh.
every iPod Shuffle we could get our hands on. So we
Okay.
at one time, we were spending like $120 in iPod Shuffle, and we were getting them from like all over the world. Uh, we
Interesting.
we were buying them onesie twosies, and
Yeah.
uh, eventually came in contact with people who were, that was their whole business, was like buying discontinued products and
Okay.
then reselling them, and so we were able to get them in bigger quantities. So we sold um, our last new iPod shuffles like maybe a year ago, because we
Wow.
uh, we bought a ton, and then we raised the
Yeah.
price because our costs
Okay.
went up, and
Yeah.
demand went up, and so 2017 was actually our best year ever because uh, there was that fear of missing out from our customers where they were like, oh,
Okay.
it's been discontinued. I've got to get my hands
Mm.
on 4 of these so it'll last me, forever.
Real scarcity of the
Yeah,
product,
yeah.
which is great. Yeah,
Scarcity is a powerful thing, and it
it
has to
is.
be real. Customers can
It
see
has to
through
be real. Yes.
the BS. So,
Yeah.
um, so we had this kind of soft cushion to fall on as we
Okay.
launched the Delphin, and we have some other products. Our hair care product has grown exponentially in the last several years, and
Well, yeah, let's talk about this and acknowledge this because this has kind of been the trend for you since 2011 and starting your business. It's always been about innovating and ensuring that you pivot or die and
right,
knowing when and how to do that. And so, all of these years you've been underwater audio and you know your audience and your customer, and one of their needs is they're in pool water a lot, and that impacts your hair. It does damage to it. It changes the color. Women are spending lots of money to go get their hair colored, and then it's going green. And I'm sure it does things for older people with gray hair. And so you saw an opportunity to expand your offering and to, in a really brilliant way, by the way, into like a consumable product category, and to continue to help and serve the same customers and clients and grow and expand your offering. So you have expanded or pivoted to AquaGuard, which is hair products that protects your hair in so many incredible ways. So tell us about this pivot and how that came to be and how it's continuing to help you grow the business.
sure. So in 2015, some of our employees came to us and said, "Hey, you sell these durable goods, music players, so you can listen to music while you swim. Wouldn't it be great if we had something that we could sell them all the time?" And so we did a lot of,
Which is such a great, your team came to you and said that? That's like
Mhm.
the key question to be asking inside of specifically physical products. Yeah,
Yeah,
so good.
yeah, and getting getting innovation and product ideas from your employees, all of your employees. So
Yeah,
these were customer service
yeah,
representatives specifically,
yeah.
is kind of a core belief in in at Underwater Audio. So
Love it.
um, so we did a lot of like brainstorming and research, and we decided that we wanted to make a hair care product because it's something that is a consumable that people
Mhm,
need to buy all the time. And
mhm.
uh, we we made some ourselves, and we thought like, oh, we'll make an organic um, hair care product because that's not really something that's out there. Uh, and the problem with organic hair care products is that we found that like 2 weeks later, when you opened it up, it was totally rancid. It's disgusting.
Yeah, the
So
performance also is like not great. Yeah.
yeah,
It
that's
had it
definitely
had
true.
a short shelf life, is what you're saying. Short shelf life.
Yeah, it had a
Yeah.
short shelf life, and honestly, I never tried the product in my hair because I didn't want it to smell, rancid. Um, so then we started looking for a contract manufacturer that could actually make the hair care product, and we
Mhm.
found one. And uh, I won't say who it was, but there's,
Sure.
you know, you can
There's
Google it.
people around.
There's people that do that. Uh,
They're on the East Coast or the West Coast.
yeah, there's like a around, I can't remember which state it is, somewhere in the East Coast, um,
Yeah,
and then in California.
yeah,
So we wanted to make something that was blue ocean, which I don't know, lots of people are familiar with that. term, but basically there's a red ocean, which is all bloody from all the fish eating each other because it's incredibly competitive. And so what you want to create is a product in which there are no competitors. So a good example is Red
Essentially
Bull.
making your own product category.
Right. Yeah. So a
Yeah.
good example is Red Bull. There's lots and lots of companies that have tried and failed to create competitors to Coke and Pepsi, and they all die because Coke and Pepsi have more money than they know what to do with. So
Yeah.
they bury you. But Red Bull is essentially the same thing. I mean, it's Coke, but with more caffeine in it, basically. And so Red Bull created this. They said, "Oh, we're not a cola soft drink. We're an energy drink." And Aquaguard has the same concept. We're not a conditioner. We're a pre-swim hair defense. You put it on.
Pre-swim hair defense.
Yeah, you put it on before you get in the pool, and it keeps your hair from getting disgusting from the pool chemicals. It prevents the damage rather than tries to repair it after the fact. And so we created that whole new category, and it worked. And I think it's important to mention that by doing that, by creating a whole new product category, you have to have a way to tell people about it. And so the reason why Aquaguard was so successful is we included samples of the hair care product with our music players. So we had this
good.
built-in audience of people who swam, and every single one of them got a 1-ounce sample of Aquaguard. We also distributed samples through other ways, but there's nothing better than free advertising, right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
already had the customer, and the most amazing thing about that whole process was that we were fixated at the beginning on, okay, these samples have to pay for themselves. Like we have to sell enough full-size Aquaguard to make it worth it to include these samples. But what we found in our A/B testing fairly quickly was that including the samples of Aquaguard actually increased the sales of our music players. So
What?
yeah, so especially the iPod had very little that differentiated it from other people who waterproofed iPods. And so by including the hair care product, it gave people just one more reason to have trust. We talked about trust earlier in online sales.
Yeah.
That, oh, these people are legit. They have this hair care product. And so I really think I really think that it was about trust and not so much like the fact that the 1-ounce Aquaguard in the picture and in the product image really made them feel like, oh, I really want to try that hair care product. I'm going to buy this $150 player. And I wasn't before. I think it had to do with I need to know that this thing is legit. And the fact that they also sell this hair care product makes me think that, oh, this is like a real company. Like this is a trustworthy entity.
Yeah.
And so, we distributed thousands of Aquaguard samples and built, this base of people who were using it regularly. And about 2 years ago, we started really focusing on growing that side of the business with more advertising, and it's doubled for the past 2 years. So we're really excited about it's about a third of our sales today, and we're really excited about where AquaGuard is going, where we added a bunch of new products, a real conditioner and shampoo, because we found that the
Okay.
most popular product that people
Mm,
bundled with our product when they bought it on Amazon
okay.
was other people's swim shampoo and conditioner. And we thought,
Okay.
oh, well, they should buy our swim shampoo and
They
conditioner
should
to
be
go
buying ours. Yeah.
with our, and then this UV leave-in detangler, which is kind of more of a blue ocean play again.
Okay.
And the UV leave-in detangler is something that when you get out of the pool or just when you're exposing your hair to the sun or water, you put in your hair and it makes it really easy to brush out. After you go to the pool, your hair gets all tangled up, but
Yeah, it does.
also protects your hair from the sun, which bleaches out people's hair, especially color treated hair,
Mhm.
and uh, that that's off to a good start. We just launched it in August, so it
So
was on
good.
Good Morning America. That's how we launched it, and
Oh, that's a good place to launch it. I love it. That's awesome. That's
yeah,
fantastic.
it was fantastic. That that might be another story for another day, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was cool for our product to be on national TV.
Yeah. Yeah. Congrats, Scott. I mean, you, a friend, mentor, and eventual business partner told me really early on, he was like, Katie, you have to build your list. It's all about the list. Like that's your business, is building the list. And as a young product designer, I was so focused on my thing, right? My product. And I was really, really focused on making it exceptional and amazing. And it was awesome. And what took me a little bit longer to understand is the power of really knowing your customer and their needs. And as their needs are shifting and changing, and you don't have as many customers needing this waterproof audio streaming device, which it still exists, by the way, but it is not maybe growing at the rate that it used to. And so looking 2 years ahead, it's like, okay, I want that more rapid rocket growth. So what are other ways that I could continue to serve the same customer that I'm already in conversation with, the same customer that's already in my world, and I can talk to them for free through email rather than having to run ads, which you probably run ads too. But the brilliance
We do.
of this product goes back to that question that your team asked, which was, is there a product we could create that has people buying more frequently? And that can totally transform your business, because then you are introducing continuity into your business, and like including those samples in the electronic devices that people are buying for the hair products, and then using it. You probably make your money back from the first bottle that they buy. And so every bottle that they buy after that is just like gravy train, cash in your pocket. And it's amazing. It's awesome. So it's a really smart business model, which you need in order to serve your customers at a high level, which you showed me at the very beginning. Like, you're a man of integrity. And if you're going to put products out there, they need to deliver on the promises that you're creating. And if, as a business owner, you have to produce the profit margin to deliver on those big promises. And this is one way that AquaGuard and underwater audio, that you're able to do this, is by being smart with the questions that you're asking and making sure that you have the right products, the right packers who are creating these products and delivering all of this. Like, and that is the magic of you and your mind, Scott Walker, is that like you understand the complexity of all of these elements. And the other thing that we haven't even talked about here is the fact that, oh, by the way, you're a husband who has young kids, and you're even considering homeschooling them, and you're active in your faith, and you like have a relationship with your father, and you had a business with him for X amount of years. Like, those are really incredible things, Scott. So I want to just take a moment and acknowledge you, the complexity of all of these different variables in your business and your life. And you are figuring out how to show up in an integrous way to all of these things in a way where you ultimately are building and creating the life that you want. And the business is a piece of that, right? And I think the mistake so many people make is is we see these people, maybe even the Kickstarter campaigns where it's like pump and dump, and it's just like hurry and make a bunch of money and disappear. And they lose their integrity, they lose their soul in that process, and they actually miss out on some of the more fulfilling parts of entrepreneurship, which is like standing in your integrity and genuinely helping people solve problems through your products and services. And then even building an incredible team and being a leader to your team and empowering them to ask these questions and then like go solve those problems. Like, I am just so excited to share you with my audience so they can see this example of somebody who has picked up the stick of entrepreneurship, and in doing so has also picked up the stick of leadership and said, okay, guys, let's do this. I'm going to figure it out, and I will be the leader, and I will understand the complexities of all of these different variables. And we might make a few mistakes along the way, but I am committed to figuring it out. And you've done that to your team, to your family, to your father, to your customers. And I think it's so inspiring to see your story, to hear how you have navigated the roller coaster of all of this, because it's a roller coaster. And continually through your integrity and your commitment, you have found solutions and found a way forward. So thank you, Scott Walker. Like, this is just amazing.
You're making me blush, Katie.
Well, I want people to see that. I think oftentimes somebody sees a guy like you who owns a 5, 10, $15 million company and has a team of 22, and they're like, that guy's got it made. He's got it all figured out. And they don't see the level of complexity and stress that you daily navigate, right? And I think, to your point from the very beginning, you talked about core principles that you've had from the get-go, and it's things like pivot or die, and ensuring that, I think it was 15% of your product revenue is coming from new innovations, new ideas, new products. And it's important to have these core tenets that you're standing on that will ensure the success of not just your products, not just your company, but you, the man, right? Like, and that's, in my opinion, that is what it is about. It is not about the pump and dump, big fancy story where did those guys go? They disappeared on their customers and they took their money, and we don't know what happened to them. Well, of course we know. They disappeared, and they did a nosedive into the ground. And it's people like you who are committed to the promises that you're making and figuring out the solution. Like, I want more people to see that. So thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for even sharing like the difficulties and the struggles and the pains that you experienced and how you ultimately are continuing to, because I know it's not game over for you. Like, you're still figuring things out today. Your team opened your doors. We were having a conversation. Like, there's probably something going on that we need you to like wrap this up so that you can go and have that conversation with your team. But I think it's so important for people to get to see this example and the reality and the beauty and the level-headedness required to be a CEO in today's world. So thank you. What's working right now? It's Scott Walker. That is what's working now. So Scott, thank you. This has just been absolutely amazing. I mean, if you have a couple minutes, I do have a couple questions that I like to get a little bit more of a window in your life. And like I mentioned, how old are your kids, by the way? They're young.
Yeah, 4 and 2, and my wife is due to deliver our baby girl on November 6th.
Okay, hopefully that wasn't her at the door. Hey,
It
honey,
was not.
It's time to go.
Typically she's late, so we're good.
Okay, yeah, I know what that's like. It's not fun.
It is not.
Well, I mean, that's amazing. That is so amazing. I mean, just being in the thick of that, 4, 2, and another one on the way any day now, like that's tremendous responsibility and a lot of complexity. And so for you to voluntarily take all of this on and shoulder that responsibility, I think it's just so amazing and inspiring. So I'm grateful for people like you. And that's the other thing, like, you're just wired that way. There's no way you'd be caught in a cubicle with a paycheck. Like, that's the pivot or die. That is the die situation, and you pivoted yourself out of that situation. So given all of that amazingness that's going on in your life, I'm curious, because there's certain things that a guy like you has to do in order to be able to navigate the complexity of all of this. So what's something that you do consistently every day to help you navigate all of this?
Sure. I think the most difficult part of scaling a business is learning to delegate. The things that you're not good at and that you shouldn't do, but also the things that you're good at. So my background is in marketing and online advertising, and so entrusting other people to handle that aspect of the business, and so I can focus on the things no one else can do,
Yeah,
is I think the thing that limits most people, and probably
yeah,
has limited my business, to be candid.
sure. Yeah. Yes, the CEO becomes the bottleneck. That's not a once told story. It's often the story of many CEOs. And so learning that skill of delegating. So
Absolutely.
you are delegating every day. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah, I'm constantly trying to find ways to help my team take over tasks that I do.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome.
Uh,
Is there a book that you maybe keep on your nightstand, you frequently revisit, a book that has staying power in your life?
sure, yeah. It's called Leadership and Self-Deception: Getting Out of the
Hello.
Box. And
Terry Warner. Yes.
if you haven't read it, it should be life-changing for you.
Yeah.
About treating people as people and not as tools.
It's so good. It is so good. If you're listening, like go download the audio version. It's from the Arbinger Institute, which was created by a man named Terry Warner. And before I had read Leadership and Self-Deception, I read The Bonds That Make Us Free, which is also by him. And just listen to Scott and go and then go listen to Terry Warner and go listen to it, because is so good and it will help you in your leadership. I love it. So good. Has there been some advice that you've been given on your journey that really helped you in a critical time?
I've been talking to a lot of other entrepreneurs at various stages of their journey, and
Mhm.
it's kind of reiterating what I said before, but uh, you can't do it by yourself. So
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of people when they're starting out that are just really hesitant to take the plunge of hiring that first employee. And
Mhm.
um, that's something that my dad taught me uh, very, at the very beginning. We hired an employee very early, and uh, we, and that's how I was able to go to college, and he had a day job, and we started this business.
Mhm.
And the economics have to make sense,
Yeah.
but you'll never scale your business by yourself. Then you're just the dancing bear. You're up there,
Yeah.
and if you're the only one who does work for your company, it can only it will only be there as long as you're dancing. And as soon as you stop, the money stops. So if you want to build
Yeah.
something, you have to learn how to manage people.
And that is not sexy, Scott. Like that is the cold, hard truth reality of being a CEO and being a founder and entrepreneur is you have to learn how to manage people. And it's such a paradox because nobody gets into the business because they're like, I want to manage people. And yet it very quickly becomes the only way that you can scale. And if we don't, eventually something in the system will crack and break. Your relationships will suffer, your health will suffer, mental or physical, your spirituality. I mean, something will eventually break. And I've watched it happen, unfortunately, with amazing entrepreneurs because we are abnormally capable of doing a lot of things and being exceptional at most of them. And yet, to your point, if we continue down that road, it won't work eventually. Eventually it all dries up. Yeah,
Yeah, and you know, being in business is about making money. I
it is.
don't want I don't want to butter it up or dress it up or anything.
Yeah.
But money is not the only thing that matters. And so
Mhm.
there are plenty of incredibly successful entrepreneurs who, you know, sacrificed everything to make their business successful.
Mhm.
But they're not married to the
Yeah.
person they started that journey with, or
Yeah.
they're not really involved in their kids' lives,
Yeah.
or they no longer have their faith, as you mentioned. Um,
Yeah.
so you you can sacrifice it all for uh, and be incredibly successful, but have less than what you started with.
Yeah. Which I think really speaks to something that the questions that I was asking really early on. And so I think the way to avoid that is to really define what success looks like for you and get really clear on that before you go chasing the money. Because I've watched a lot of people chase after the money, and it's hard to believe this if you don't have money in your bank account, but the money it won't bring you meaning, it won't bring you purpose, it won't bring that lasting satisfaction and joy that honestly we're all seeking and is part of the drive to go and build and create something. And if you can understand how to bring meaning to it, then the money becomes purposeful and you can do incredible things with it. But the money on its own is pretty hollow and empty. Yeah,
Yeah, it certainly makes life easier. I don't want to,
sure.
belittle
It
people who
does.
really struggle, with financial
Yeah.
security. That
Yeah.
that is just as difficult as the other things.
Yeah.
It's just about balance and you know having making time to do all of those things.
Yeah. And it is like it's neither, it's not one or the other, it's an and, right? How can we generate the income and the resources and the influence and do it in a way where it's meaningful? They're not mutually exclusive, and the answer is not obvious, and it's not an easy path to commit to walking down. But if you can commit to walking down that, like, you can have a very beautiful, loving, grounded, meaningful life. And I think Scott Walker, you're a really beautiful example of this. So thank you so
I
much for
feel
being on the show.
I feel beautiful, Katie. Thank you.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you for listening. And everyone needs to go to Scott's website, underwateraudio.com. You can also go to aquaguard.com. The video that we were referencing with the
It's
merman, that's under aquaguardswim.com. And if somebody had like a message that they really wanted to connect to you personally, Scott, you can opt out of this, but is there a place where you connect with people either on any social channels or anything like that?
Oh, yeah, I have a LinkedIn, which I think would be
Okay.
appropriate for this group.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
Scott Walker, Corvallis,
Well,
Oregon. Find me there.
okay. And we can have a link to that in our show notes to your LinkedIn. We'll make sure
Okay,
we do that as well.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Scott, thank you. This has been amazing. Really wonderful. And for everybody who's listening, this is What's Working Now.